Hey everyone, and welcome back to Cobb Hill Farms. We're in the shop working today on, I couldn't even tell you what number episode of the Farmall H project this is. I'm waiting on a large shipment order of parts. They haven't showed up yet. They're supposed to be here tomorrow from what the tracking information shows me. But yesterday I did finally receive the one seal I've been waiting on for the PTO assembly to be able to put back together. So we're going to assemble this PTO unit. We're going to get it put back on the tractor. And we also have some other parts that are finally all painted, and we're gonna work on the back half of the tractor today. Yesterday was a prime day for doing a little bit of painting outside. It was about 90 degrees, nice breeze, low humidity. The nice thing about using self-etching primer, the one I use, is it dries really fast. So I was able to shoot the primer in the morning and then turn around early afternoon and mix up some red paint and get all these parts in red. And they really turned out nice. As far as our PTO assembly is concerned, pretty well straightforward. I've been lacking one seal that I found rather difficult to locate, and that's this little guy that goes in the side of the PTO housing that seals our actuating lever that throws the PTO in and out of gear. This little seal is not available through any aftermarket companies that I was able to find except one, and they showed it out of stock. So I was actually able to find this on Amazon, and it's a Chicago rawhide seal, and for anybody that's ever looking for that, the part number for that is a 6315. It's just a little guy. Like I said, it's very hard to find. The output shaft seal, those are a dime a dozen. Most aftermarket companies have those, no problem. So now that we got that little seal, we're gonna get busy putting the seal in and getting this thing back together. So the first thing I gotta do is pack this with some Vaseline. That helps hold the spring that's on the inside lip of the seal from popping off when you install the shaft or whatever's passing through it. And we'll get that somewhat set where it needs to be. Yep, that worked well. Give it a little tappy tap to make sure that it's square. So now we got the shaft through. This is the actuating arm that connects to the other side of the shaft inside the PTO housing. On the bottom of this, there is a bullet looking detent pin that engages in these two detents in this plate, and there's a spring that holds constant pressure on this plate with that bullet. Well, getting that all lined up proved to be as difficult as I figured it was going to be, but we got her. Seems to work good. Now, one thing I do want to point out is it's imperative to make sure you have the shaft pointing in the right direction, because you can put this in 180 degrees the wrong way. So make sure you have the shaft pointing towards the transmission housing, because the actuating arm comes down right off the back side of the transmission housing, straight down. And then when it's engaged, it rides up against this pin. Now we can take this tube. This tube engages in the actuating rod. There's a rectangular puck on the end of the actuating rod that this engages into, and this is what slides back and forth. This is the end that has the splines in it that engages in the end of the counter shaft on the transmission. That's what drives your PTO. So we're going to slide this in, make sure we get this lined up. Then we can take and slide our PTO shaft through this tube. And it falls off on me, of course. We'll get everything a lot closer, then we can get it lined up. Now that we got it where we want it, give the bearing a little tap. So I got my PTO seal installed in this bearing end cap. I did the same thing, packed the backside of it with Vaseline. One thing to note is this cutout in the housing corresponds with this hole here and the PTO housing. That's so any oil that gets on the backside of this bearing can drain back into the PTO housing. All right, we got our bearing end cap on. PTO shaft spins nice and freely. So now I need to clean up this gasket surface. I got a little bit of paint on it, so I'm going to clean that all up with a cookie wheel, and then this will be ready to put on the tractor. All right, let's see if we can get this thing lined up. PTO engaged, PTO disengaged. I think we're good. Well, so much for the ratchet part. Guess I gotta use the open end. And last but not least is we'll get the PTO lever installed. Well, it all works like it should. The only thing I'm lacking is a cotter pin. I gotta go get an assortment of cotter pins for this thing, different sizes. So I'll get one of them put on there, but other than that, PTO is together and assembled. So I think I'm gonna move on and try to get some of these pedals assembled on the tractor. And I'm gonna start over here on the right side of the tractor with the brake pedals. There. I think I'm going to leave all the lock bolts and everything out of every pedal until I have the whole shaft assembled with everything that needs to go on it, just to make sure I have everything in the right location, and then I'll go back through after the fact and tighten everything up. Now for the right brake shaft. We'll slide that in for now. So I have the bracket that goes behind both of these pedals on the right side. I got to take these two top cover bolts back out in order to mount that. Now for the other side, we'll put the clutch pedal on. Now for the actuating lever for the left-hand brake. Looks pretty good there. I'll install this bolt, tighten it up. There. That looks pretty good right there. Well, lo and behold, I happen to have a couple cotter pins that fit these pins. They're a little bit long, so we'll see about cutting them shorter. I got my left brake linkage installed with the lower clevis pin. The upper clevis can spin freely. I got it adjusted out quite a ways. I got brand new brake bands in here. So what I'm going to try to do is, with the brake pedal all the way back, pull the brake rod down, try to hold everything the best I can. See about sliding the clevis pin in. There we go. See how the brake pedal feels. I'm going to go a couple turns with it. I'm going to have to adjust this after we've put a few hours on the tractor anyways, but I'm going to go half a turn, one full turn. I think we'll go there and see how it feels. I think we'll leave it there for now. There's a return spring that goes from this point here over to this nub that sticks out on the brake band cover. I got to get new ones of those, but for right now the left hand brake is adjusted as good as it's going to be for the time being until we get this tractor under its own power and see how the brakes work. Now I'll get the jam nut ran down a little bit closer to the bottom for now. Get the top pin installed first. There. Well, I'm happy with that for now. Well, before we move on to the next part of the tractor, we got something important to take care of here. We got to get the grill prepped for dinner tonight. We have a whole chicken that we're going to cook on the grill that I cut the back out of, and we're going to split it open and cook it with the bone side down. So in a couple hours we're going to have a nice yummy chicken dinner. I think the last thing I want to try to get done today is get the belt pulley on. I got that cleaned up the other day and painted. I got to clean up the mating surface here, clean up the mating surface on the belt pulley, and we're just going to use a little bit of RTV to seal that down, and then that area will be all sealed off, and then we can start building up from there. Now we'll clean the sealing surface off. So when I do my tractor restorations, I try to do the best quality of job as I can. I mean, at the end of the day, I want something that I can be proud of. So the varying degree of restoration changes from tractor to tractor. This one I'm trying to get more in depth with, and unfortunately I had the time restraint of the wedding. So I'm still trying to do as a quality of job as I possibly can, but at the same time I need to get the tractor done. So things like the belt pulley, there were no problems with. They weren't leaking before. It doesn't get used, so I didn't take it apart. I just cleaned it out as best I can. Ideally, yeah, it would have been nice to take it apart and make sure everything was good inside and replace the seal, but at the end of the day, I just plain run out of time and didn't see the need to take it all apart. So, you know, things like the engine, obviously, you take your time with and you do it right because you don't want to have to go there again. Same thing with the clutch. You know, some could say, well, just because you were there, you should have put a new clutch in it. Well, I could have, but at the same time, there was nothing wrong with what was there. So why replace it? If it's not broke, don't fix it, right? I mean, I replaced the two common items that would tend to go bad, the throwout bearing and the pilot bearing. So when I restored the wide front Super C, that was a restoration that took 3.5 years, mostly because of funding. But I went through that is about as thorough as I did this, with the exception of the transmission. I didn't take the transmission apart. I'd known that tractor for 30 years and there was never any problems with it. Hindsight's 2020. I probably should have taken it apart, because a year after I did the restoration, it developed an oil leak from one of the axle seals. So I kind of learned from that. But so when I decided to restore this tractor, I was going to go through it A to Z, one end to the other, completely gut it, and I'm really glad I did, because I found bearings that were bad, the outer axle bearings, some bearings in the transmission. It was definitely the right decision to do that with this tractor. I don't regret it one bit, and I'm still going to try to do as a quality job as I can, given the time restraint I have. But when I redid my Farmall H, that was basically just take the tin work off, take off most of the big pieces that I could, and wire wheel what I could get, and give her a good paint job as best I could. And I really concentrated on the hood, the grill, and the fuel tank to make it look good, because at the end of the day, the tin work is the most crucial part, because casting can hide quite a bit, but the tin work, you see every little imperfection in it. So with that tractor, I spent quite a bit of time on the tin work to make it look good. Would I have done it over again? At this stage, yes, I would have. I would like to do a full restoration on it someday, and someday it will. But that's what I did at the time. It was a pulling tractor at the time, and I just wanted it to look good going down the track. At that time, the H was a solid mass of rust. I mean, that tractor was brown. It had sat outside for a long, long time. So it took a lot of work to get the tin work mostly smooth. So the rest of it, it was what it was. That tractor needs some work. But in the end, that's the type of restoration I did on it. Well, let's see how the chicken looks. It's been on the grill about an hour and a half now. Ooh, that looks good. I think it's ready. Well, I hope you enjoyed the video. We got a little bit of progress done on the Farmall H today. We got a lot more to do. I'm going to get some more parts cleaned. Waiting on the shipment of parts so I can start working on the front end of the tractor. So hopefully that'll be tomorrow. They'll show up tomorrow. So I'm going to take this chicken in the house and share it with Logan and Stacy. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. If you like our channel, as always, we ask you to subscribe. We hope you have a great day. We'll see you next time.